When you want a pair of white Birks, you want a pair of white Birks, don't you?
And I want them like right now.
Yes, quite. And do they come quite quickly as well?
They did. They came in under a week, which was rather marvellous.
Okay.
And yeah, you know, your old ones get to the point where you take them off and everyone around you is fainting.
I know, yeah. Yeah, that cork does have a way of hogging the pong.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Good morning.
Morning, caller. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Rather warm, but apart from that...
Well, I don't think that's anything we don't love, is it?
Exactly. I have got all the doors shut and the aircon on today, so we should be cicada-free, lorry-free, and any kind of screaming-free.
Yeah, I think it's a shame about the cicadas. I think they add a little bit of local colour.
Absolutely.
But I understand your team don't like editing round them.
Yeah, so what's been happening in your week then?
Well, it's few what a scorcher. 27 degrees and sunny forecast on Mondays for 6 days straight.
Oh, lovely. So you've got a whole week to look forward to. Yeah, nice.
Absolutely. And a noisy weekend with all the neighbours barbecuing al fresco, playing loud music, singing along, everyone shouting to be heard over the top. But I think that's rather better than us all being imprisoned indoors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and plus add to that, we had a blocked drain and a man had to come and pump out our backlog of raw sewage.
Oh, grim.
Quite a pong. So if they were noisy, we were smelly.
I don't know how people do that job. There's two local plumbers here and it must be a very grim job indeed.
There's just one of those long list of jobs that you're pleased that somebody does do it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
So anything else?
Yeah. We had a wonderful full moon last night. I didn't really get much sleep. Moon bathing, I like to call it, where I lie in my bed with the window, with the moon coming in on me. And sometimes I have to do this thing where I have to put the pillow up the other end so I can lie in bed and enjoy it. But it had a lot of. I know my glasses prescription needs renewing, and I didn't have my contact lenses in, obviously, because it's dark and I'm sleeping, but I could see all of these kind of visual pyrotechnics coming off it, like blue petals. I could see the stars even without my glasses. It had a kind of rainbow corona, which it often does, and it had these starry rainbow flashes, and then it went behind the big tree and came out again for a second visit. And the reason it was so visible, of course, is with this hot weather, we've got these clear skies all night long. So it's not just going to be last night, but for several nights on the trot, I'm going to be able to enjoy it, which is a bit of a moon feast for me.
And do you need to have no glass between you and the moon so you get the full-on unadulterated moon ray? No,
I'm happy to do it through the window, but I think it's odd. I am the worst camera woman in the world, and I do have a camera somewhere, and I can't bother to charge it, so I can never use it. But I had a go at photographing it with my iPad, and it just doesn't work because to the naked eye, it's this enormous fat big thing. As soon as I get my iPad out, it turns into a boring little white dot. I know.
I haven't been in a debate.
Yeah, I've been in a debate about this with somebody on Facebook, but it hasn't actually produced the answer. But anyway, tell me about your week.
Well, it's been raining biblical downpours. In fact, we've got the kids arriving any day now, and we were seriously thinking of telling them not to come, especially when we heard that you guys were going to have a fantastic week and they were going to miss a fantastic week at home, with the possibility of being cooped up indoors, because when it rains here, it actually throws it down.
Yeah. I saw you all in your cardies. Actually, being away on holiday in a sort of sunny resort when it's rainy is not nice. In fact, when I had my travel agency, the woman that worked it with me was also a tour operator, and she said, you only ever get complaints on holiday when it's raining. As soon as the sun comes out, people go and enjoy themselves and have a lovely time. Yeah,
exactly. There's been quite a bit going out this week, but I've discovered something rather marvellous. We can get our post delivered to our local coffee shop and bar called Toastekis, and we go there rather more often than we do to the supermarket. It's much more convenient.
Yeah. Oh, that's handy. And so what sort of things? All your Amazon parcels or everything?
Yeah,
what do you get by post out there?
Well, I've just had a delivery of a new pair of white Birkenstocks. So that came in in fact, that got delivered to the pizza shop next door, and I was having a laugh with her because she said, I think we're pretty much the same size. I could have kept them. And what else came? I can't remember what else came. But yeah, so anyway, it's just a bit more convenient because we go there more often. So.
And when your Birks come, do they come from Amazon or from Birkenstock?
They come from, I just order them from the place that's got the size and style I want.
Indeed. And do you pay more to have them delivered to Greece, or do you have to source a place where they will deliver to Greece?
There's a little thing on the left where it says international deliveries. Or
yeah. Okay. And does it cost more?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know.
When you want a pair of white Birks, you want a pair of white Birks, don't you?
And I want them like right now.
Yes, quite. And do they come quite quickly as well?
They did. They came in under a week, which was rather marvellous.
Okay.
And yeah, your old ones get to the point where you take them off and everyone around you is fainting.
I know, yeah. That cork does have a way of hogging the pong a bit.
It does, indeed. So what's fueled your fire this week?
No, you go first.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to tell you all about IGTV, which launched this week, which is Instagram TV. And it's Instagram/Facebook's attempt at going up against YouTube, because Facebook had a go with their live TV station. It totally didn't work at all. Everyone totally ignored it. But Instagram TV, up until now, you've only been able to put a video of up to a minute on Instagram. And now you can do videos of up to an hour on Instagram. You have to go and set up your channel first, which I think you have to do on a desktop. But that can't be right, can it? Because everyone's going mobile. So there must be just a way to do it that I don't know about. And I will find out today. And then you can upload your videos of up to an hour. And it shows along the top, there's little round things at the top where you can go and... Oh, no, that's not true. Okay, the little round things at the top of your Instagram screen when you open your Instagram app is people's stories, which is where they've added either photos or short videos to their stories. Top right, you will see a little icon that hitherto hadn't been there. And if you can't see it, just pull your screen down and it'll refresh the app and it'll show. And that's where you can watch people doing all sorts of interesting things. For example, I watched Kim Kardashian's new pop-up shop in Los Angeles. And she was showing us around the shop, talking directly to camera, and it honestly felt like she was giving me a tour personally of her nude lipsticks and stuff like that. Things you never knew you needed to know about, really. Mm. And I can hear your absolute underwhelm, but
I actually zoned out for a bit there, to be honest. And the mention of the Kardashians didn't help. But carry on.
It's a big deal because basically, if you've got a lot of Instagram followers, you can now put on proper educational shows. You can use things like Zoom, I imagine, so that you can share your screen, and it's just an alternative to YouTube, really. Okay. And the thing about Instagram is it's so easy to share, whereas YouTube have only just brought in the share this with your one follower at a time. So if you're connected to someone on YouTube, most people aren't connected on YouTube yet because they've only just brought this feature in. But on Instagram, you can share your TV shows when all your followers automatically see them. So it's a big deal. Yeah, just one more place to be thinking about. And then you can cut off the first minute of your videos and use those as a trailer. So you've got to be thinking TV station and films here.
Okay.
Yeah, not you, obviously.
No.
But you know what, Judith? If you had an Instagram account, I know you haven't, but if you had one, you could have been showing your little Lumen 5 videos that you use now.
Well, I put them on YouTube when I can be bothered, but I just can't get up any enthusiasm for videos.
I'm not saying everyone should do it. I'm just saying if you do have if you enjoy Instagram because it's highly visual,
yes, and
you've got a decent amount of followers, you should be putting your videos on there too. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, quite.
I would stick with YouTube because it's got the search engine benefits, whereas Instagram doesn't have any.
And will it have any, or
no? They use hashtags on Instagram, so if you hashtag your TV show, then you're quite likely to be seen by people who would never have found you otherwise. So it is a big deal for some people.
Okay, and no, I totally acknowledge that it is a big deal,
but not for you, right? Okay, so what's your?
I've got quite a lot of funny little things in here. Linda, who I know is a podcast listener, gave me one of my best testimonials ever, and we both cried a bit. And I put it in last week's newsletter, and she sent me an email saying, I cried again, which was very sweet. Last week's newsletter was a bit miserable. It was about me being despondent about, the ongoing burden that is marketing, and resonating very much with clients who moan about that all of the time. Poor sausages, and I sympathise with them. But my newsletter readership rallied a lot and showed their kindness and support by bringing about between them 2 book sales, 12 messages, a PM or 2, 3 people booked into my diary, 5 people opted into my newsletter. I know that there are particular angels at work behind the scenes, and they were sensing that I was dispirited, and they were wanting to encourage me, so that was nice. I also got a referral from a former client, a Facebook friend and podcast listener, who put another woman in touch with me, and that woman had inferred from our podcast that I wasn't interested in new clients, and nothing could be further from the truth. So let me correct that misconception now for anyone listening. I am open, my shop is open for business. I got out a new sales page for a low carb referral based on my first video testimonial so that she can be an affiliate. I expect you've seen that by now. It's Lisa Warner. She was my first low carber, and she's given me a fantastic review. I'd love to do more of that work, and I've had a couple of inquiries that have come in since she's gone public with how well she did on it. And I had to update my Facebook shop because some of my images and items, like you said last week about you couldn't get some of them to work, some of mine had stopped working, I don't know, so I had to fiddle about there. I'd also fiddle about in WebEx, which I use for my my calls in Small Business Big Magic, because I've been using it for 4 years, and the beauty of it is that immediately the call ends, it auto sends the recording to everyone who is invited. But it stopped doing that, and it sends it only to the people who've attended, not to the invitees. Well, if you've already been, you don't need to hear it. You only need to hear it if you haven't been. I mean, yes, you can listen again if you've been, and it was a good one, and people do that occasionally. But I meant I had to throw myself onto the helpline in chat format in the middle of the night, which isn't my favourite thing to do, but no. I managed to, pull myself up to my full height and face it. And they've acknowledged that it is their problem. But that was about a week ago, and they haven't fixed it yet, so I'm a bit annoyed about that. Maybe the heat is making things stop work. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But only a sort of an admin-y, a sort of mixed week of all sorts of funny little things that add up to a lot, but none of them do individually, if that makes any sense.
No, I mean, I'm intrigued by this idea that someone thought you weren't taking new clients. I wonder what...
I don't know what I've said. I don't know. I have chatted to her, actually. She also said... the referral had suggested that she might want me to be quite strict, and I said to the lady, I don't really do that. She says, you're sometimes quite strict with Nicola. I said, well, yes, I am quite strict with Nicola, because she is a special management challenge, as my brother would say. But that's not a universal technique. So don't be feared that I'm stricty pants, and don't think I haven't got room for you. I have.
No, and then also, I do encourage strictness, because...
Well, I know you do, yes. Yeah. She said, you sometimes say to her, you go first. I said, well, I have to say that, because otherwise she just falls into the role of interviewer, and she would always ask me, and then it's a boring thing for the format of the show and a boring thing for the format of the notes. So I mix it up sometimes rather than it's always me first, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. So one thing that isn't going to be boring is our focus of the week this week. So
marvellous.
I'll hand over to you to introduce our guest.
Yes. We, Nicola and I, I think we promised it last week, and then we lost our recording last week. So you don't know it's coming, gentle listener, but we're interviewing Charlotte Davies, who is I met, I think, during the 30-day challenge with John Williams, which is 4 years ago, and she's been a client in Small Business Big Magic ever since. But she's a silent lurker in there, because she's a very able businesswoman, and she's built up her SEO search strategist business very successfully in that time, and truth is I need her a lot more than she needs me, because she does the SEO for my website and she does it fantastically. And so, as regular podcast listeners would know, a couple of weeks ago Nicola and I had this genius idea that it would be useful to pick Charlotte's brains. Charlotte Davies, who's a search, what do we call you, Charlotte? A search specialist? What do you call yourself these days?
Yeah, something like that.
Yes. And Charlotte and I have known each other for 4 years, and she does it for my website. And occasionally I celebrate, woohoo, look, I've got people that could only possibly have come from SEO. And yesterday she helped me out with something as well. And she was willing to turn up today and be interviewed, and Nicola's very excited about it. I am too, because I love Charlotte very much, but I don't love SEO, and I'm not really terribly interested, as Charlotte knows all too well. Nicola.
Yeah, well, I'm really interested. I always have been, because that's how we founded the Money Gym, was literally just by adding new pages all the time, full of constantly updated relevant content back in 98, 99, that was. And then in 2006, blogging came along, and that promised even greater SEO riches. And really, I got the moneygym.com up to 8,000 visits a month, organic traffic, and it was going in the right direction. And ever since then, nicolacairncross.com, which was where the Money Gym was originally, has languished horribly. And I don't have the time or the inclination to learn SEO from scratch, because it's very detail orientated. But I know that I could be doing better. And recently people have said things like, oh, you've got great domain name authority, but you're bleeding organic traffic because of blah-de-blah-de-blah. And then the blah-de-blah-de-blah they say just goes completely over my head, and I don't understand what they're saying. So I'm hoping, Charlotte, that you could give us some really basic tips on how to improve your WordPress blog and get some good SEO, hopefully going in an upward direction rather than just a static direction.
Yes, well, I mean, the thing about SEO is it has become a lot more complicated, and it has become a lot more techy, I would say. However, there are still some basic fundamentals that you can do, and they still work.
And also, how to tell if an SEO agency is going to do whatever they do safely, because the whole backlinks horror, agencies used to build backlinks for people, and it turns out a lot of those were turned into spam backlinks, and everyone's site got slapped. So how would you tell if an agency is good now? How would you recommend that people hire you, for example, and ask the right questions? That's another thing to cover.
Yeah. I think it's very much word of mouth. You need to ask people for get recommendations. I wouldn't just hire an agency without having spoken to one of their other clients.
So when people come to you, Charlotte, how do you distinguish yourself from an agency that might be doing nefarious practices?
Well, I'm independent. I think nowadays, because some of my clients are relatively well known, most people who approach me will perhaps call up or get in touch with one of my existing clients to get reassurance.
Oh, okay.
I guess because it's just me. When you're outsourcing to an agency, you don't really know who's doing the work.
Yeah.
Whereas with me, it's essentially just me. I have some people that I do work with, but I guess it's building up that trust with the clients and with the community.
Yeah. Okay. So if someone like me came along to you and said, what would you do? What would you do an initial audit? And is that a paid audit? And, how would you go about looking at someone's site and or fixing it?
Yeah, I tend to do an audit. So I look at all elements of the current site, how it's working, what's happening off site. So what are they doing on social media? What are they?
Oh,
now we did lose you there, Charlotte.
Yeah, we have.
She's still on the call.
She is. Hopefully she can hear us.
Hopefully she can, or we can chat to her, can't we? We'll just be patient for a minute.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we missed you there, Charlotte.
Yes, it says my internet connection is unstable.
You started to say something really interesting, and as soon as you did, you disappeared.
Oh, no.
You were talking about doing an audit. What do you?
Yes.
And you said you want to see what they're doing off their site, like social media. We got to that bit.
Yeah. So it's I look at the site itself, the content, the technical setup of it, and then I look at what they're doing, what the company is doing off site. Are they engaged? Are they active on social media? What are their backlinks like? What are their competitors' backlinks like? Are they doing any PR? So I look at all of that. So it's quite a holistic audit. And then that basically drives the strategy in terms of what needs doing. And every site, every business that I do an audit on has different issues, some of which are more critical than others. So we always go on to tackle what's most critical.
Mm. And are there core errors we're all making?
No, it really does vary.
Yeah.
It really varies between the clients.
It's cool for you, isn't it? It's the same thing I always say about my clients. It makes every client interesting because they're not a clone of the one that went before.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, every company does some things really well and other things, they miss. So
yeah.
And some of the things I find a developer needs to implement. Some of them the company or the marketing person themselves needs to implement, and sometimes it's something for me to do. So
yeah. And can you look at the front end and immediately spot what it's likely to be, or is it quite forensic?
It's a bit more forensics.
Yeah. Nicola, back to you. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So, do you find that the companies who come to you know what keywords they want to rank for, or is that part of your service that you say to them, give me an idea of what kind of keywords you think you want to rank for, and then you go and find other keywords where they might be able to win? She's gone again.
Yeah, let's be patient with her.
Yeah.
But if that
now, Charlotte, we didn't hear you, so if you could start that answer again, that would be great.
Yeah, it depends on how long the business has been running, whether or not they've engaged in any SEO beforehand. So a lot of companies will have a very clear idea of what they want to achieve in terms of visibility, and others are looking to me for guidance.
Yeah.
Can I say something in here for the listener from the Judith client dummy perspective? When I get those spammy offers that say, I've looked at your website and I could get you on page 1, and I think, well, Charlotte's already got me on page 1 for my search terms. It seems to me that clients like us, not Nicola because she's knowledgeable, are susceptible to that approach because we think, oh, I'd like to be on page 1 of Google, but they haven't asked the keyword question. Of course, I wouldn't go with them anyway, but I want our listener to understand that Nicola's question was very carefully crafted. It's what you want to be found for. And some complete stranger who sends you a frightening email saying you don't feature until page 111 has no idea what you want to be featured on the page 1 of Google for.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, 99.9% of those emails that come offering SEO services are spam.
I know that, and I want to make sure that everybody else knows that. But the message is quite frightening if you're a little new WordPress-y.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously works, doesn't it? Otherwise, they wouldn't keep sending them.
Yes, quite. So it's worth knowing that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I heard a story just recently in one of my mastermind forums about somebody who set up a thing on WordPress.com, and they just happened to hit it big with one of their blog posts. Their blog post was aimed at parents, and it was all about what to do in the first 10 minutes if your child goes missing in a public place. And I think they must have hit with some news at the same time, because their blog post went viral and they got over 1 million hits in the first week. And so now they're just trying to puzzle out how to dovetail that in with their business and what they were planning to offer to parents. But is that kind of thing still doable? They obviously hit on a key phrase that tied in with a news item, perhaps, but is it possible to get decent traffic to individual blog posts like that still?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that tactic is called newsjacking. So yeah, I mean, it's finding something relevant to what's being searched for. What you tend to find is that traffic peaks for a certain number of days or weeks, and then it will tail off again.
Yes.
But I mean, increasingly because of mobile search and voice search,
which is getting bigger and bigger. Yes.
Bigger and bigger. So people are asking more questions. You need more question and answer content, and things like, I mean, specifically for voice search, people search for things like top, best, top 10, best 15 mobile cameras, that kind of search. So creating that kind of content is really useful.
Shall I just tell you, I did that last night. You'll both laugh at me, Nicola more than Charlotte perhaps, but the one I did last night lying in bed, so mobile search, was top 100 favourite hymns.
Yeah.
So you actually did a voice search yourself?
No. I did a top 100, a top search, using the words that Charlotte just said.
Right, so you did a desktop search on...
No, iPad.
Right.
Yeah, mobile. But using the expression top 100, I was specifically looking for that. I was planning my own funeral, as it happens.
So I could create a post that was the top 10 digital marketing consultants in the UK.
Yeah.
and that might attract someone who was looking for a digital marketing consultant in the UK, because it would come quite high up. And if I did it well and actually really, wrote about other real people as well, and put myself at number 10, perhaps, then I might get
yes.
So you might think number 10, she's the cheapest. Okay, so I mean,
I think we want some best practice principles here, Charlotte, don't we?
That's what I was going to ask.
Well, I mean, yeah. So that's one idea. It also gets you into what's called the featured snippets, which is if you do a Google search now for something like top 10, quite often you'll have a box at the top of the search results which starts to list those 10 things that you've mentioned in your blog.
Yes.
So that's where everyone's aiming to be now, because obviously with voice search, and they reckon that voice search is going to make up 50% of searches by 2020.
Yeah.
There's only one spot. There's only one answer. There's only number one position. So, so starting to think about what you can do to target those number one positions now is important. I
mean, when I've got clients who are starting to blog, I always say to them, and also I say this with YouTube videos as well, because it seems to work equally well. I'll give you an example. My daughter does YouTube videos reviewing face masks, and they're absolutely hilarious because, she just does them really well and she's really funny about it. And she got onto page 1 of Google with her video by just following these simple rules that I gave her. So put the key phrase, ideally 2 or 3 words, into the title of the video, the first line of the video, the last line of the video, the tags of the video, and use it as many times as you can naturally within the description of the video. But then it's also very important to put links to other YouTube videos. So if you've got 1 or 2 external links in your description going to your website, for example, you want to have more than that internal links. So I then tell her to go and search on YouTube for the top 5 face mask videos that she can see, and you can sort it by number of views and get the other top 5 most watched face mask videos and link to them in your description at the bottom of your description, saying something along the lines of you may also enjoy these videos. And she got onto top page 1 of Google for this particular Kiyomi face mask video. Within a week she'd had 9,000 views on hers. So it does really seem to work if you can do some basics.
Yeah, and YouTube is still a bit behind Google search in that sense. So there's a lot more opportunity there in terms of it's simpler to rank doing exactly what you just said.
Yeah. Here's my issue though, Charlotte, and you can probably help with this, is I don't know what keywords I should be going after.
Yeah.
My business, and I can get ranked for keywords, but what if they're not the right keywords? How do you even begin to go about deciding what are the right keywords for you?
Yeah, I mean it is quite complicated. There are free tools like the Google AdWords keyword tool, which give you an indication, so you can search for what you think people might be finding you for, and it will give you suggestions, and it gives you some idea of search volume. There's another tool called Answer the Public, which is basically questions that people ask. There's a lot of tools like that. You can look at, if you've got Google Search Console running, which is a bit techie for most people, but that gives you data on what people are using to find your site at the moment. Mm-hmm. And it might surprise you which phrases are the most popular. And what I would say is, for every single page or video or blog, you need to have one primary phrase that you're targeting.
Yeah.
Then, but because Google searches, the semantic search is much more complex nowadays, not just repeating the same phrase over again, but using synonyms. So, for example, if you were targeting something to do with the Lake District, you might use Lakeland, you might use lakes. Yeah. Similar words that represent the same thing.
And that people would use in conversation naturally when they were talking about that thing.
Yes. One of the easiest tools to find out what people are searching for is to start typing into the Google search box, and it gives you suggestions.
Yes, it self-populates, doesn't it?
Yeah. So those phrases tend to be the most popular things that people are searching for around a specific topic. And if your site is new and you haven't got particularly good domain authority, then the longer phrases are where you're most likely to benefit, because there's less competition, obviously, for those. The long tail is becoming more and more important, especially again with voice search.
Yes, and there's a good book, isn't there? There's actually a book called The Long Tail, isn't there? Who Seth Godin wrote that.
Somebody called Chris, somebody, wasn't it?
Oh, it might have been. For example, Phoebe's face mask, it's Kiyomi hydrating face mask. That's very specific. So it's very easy to dominate if you go for a four-word phrase and then do it right. And do Google like multimedia blog posts, for example, so where you'll write a blog post, it's perhaps 2,000 words long, it's got videos embedded in it, it's got voice. Perhaps you've got the opportunity to listen to it on a podcast as well, and there's a PDF download. Perhaps do they like that sort of thing, or is that just a waste of time? She's gone again.
Yep.
Hello.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you're back. Did you hear my question?
Mixed media.
Yes.
And length.
Yes. Yeah. However, page speed is becoming increasingly important. So, as of next month, page speed is going to become part of the algorithm. So if the multimedia means that your page is slowed down significantly, then it won't benefit you as much.
Oh, okay.
So there's a sort of compromise there, isn't there?
Yeah, and you can test it. There's a free tool called Google Page Speed Insights. If you type that in, you should come up with it, and you just put your site or your page URL into the box, and it will give you a score out of 100 and some recommendations. But basically, best practice is less than 3 seconds, which is quite hard to achieve.
I was going to say, I mean, I've been working for ages to get mine under 10 seconds, and now under 5.
Right.
I know Facebook penalise you as well. If your site loads really slowly on mobile from a Facebook link, then if you're running an ad, then you've got a real issue there, because you're going to pay more for your ad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything you can add to what we've talked about what, people are starting a new blog? Because we just talked about whether it's worth starting a blog in 2018. We concluded it still is. Mm-hmm. What should people really concentrate on making sure their new blog has got, so that the search engines can even find it in the first place?
And is it a blog per se, or is it a website?
Well, I don't think that's
they're usually one and the same now, aren't they?
Okay.
So you need to make sure that it's on a platform that is SEO friendly, and most of them are, some more than others. WordPress is obviously a good one. If you're running on WordPress, install the Yoast tool plugin.
Yeah.
Then you can add to every single page or blog post you write. You can then craft meta descriptions and meta titles. Those are still important for SEO, especially the title tag, to get the primary phrase that you're targeting into the title tag. And then the meta description is the way that is kind of your sales pitch. It's what appears in the search result usually, and entices you to click through to that particular website.
Yeah.
There's a lot more things you can do nowadays, things called schema markup, but we'll keep it simple for now, I guess.
I don't know what that is. Well, I do know I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is, how you practically do it.
Yes, making sure that all your images are tagged as well. So a lot of people use image search now, and images do appear in the normal search results as well. So that's another opportunity for ranking and having visibility without using the actual content. So making sure that the images that make sure you optimize your images before you upload them, so they're not sort of 2 megabytes each, because that will slow down the site. Making sure that you name them descriptively, and then you can add something called the alt text, which describes the image to Google.
Yeah.
Obviously making sure that all your pages load fast, making sure that you're using HTTPS. That, as of next month,
again.
The Chrome browser is going to start flagging up sites that aren't secure.
Yes, and it looks terrible when they do that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. Makes it look like you're some kind of con merchant, doesn't it? Yeah.
So if that's pretty easy to set up, you just ask your hosting provider to add an SSL certificate. Make sure you redirect your old pages to that. But that's going to be, not having the padlock is going to become something that, well, first of all, it affects your ranking, but also potential customers will probably navigate away from sites that don't have that very soon. So
next month is a big month. It's and along with the advent of voice search and the ever-growing amount of people who are doing that, there's lots of things happening next month. What's the update called? Does it have a name?
Well, the name is never given by Google itself. It's the industry kind of comes up with it, but we haven't been told. We've just been told that July is the month, and its mobile first index is also rolling out gradually at the moment. So a couple of my clients have gone mobile first, which means Google's fundamentally overhauling its entire algorithm. So whereas before it looked at desktop version of your site, now it looks primarily at a mobile version of your site. If your site's responsive, as in if you drag it in and out the browser, you still see the same content. Then you're fine. Basically, it's the same. But for people who don't have a mobile version of their site, they might find that they disappear.
Yeah. We've got a real opportunity to win here, haven't we? If we just take some basic precautions.
Yeah. And making sure that your mobile site has all the content that your desktop site has, if you have a separate version.
And interestingly, quite a lot of these things are beyond the literal definition of SEO. They're about site performance and so forth, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got all the off-site stuff as well. So answering the question like, who's going to spread the word about my website? So who can you get links from? Who can you get mentions from? Word of mouth across the web and the social networks is also important. It doesn't, even if your business is mentioned on another high quality site, that in itself, even if they don't link to your site, is an indication to Google. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's great. So even if they don't make it a live link, if they just said nicola.com, exactly. That would do it. Oh, fantastic. Cool. So presumably you have more clients than you know what to do with, Charlotte?
I do at the moment.
And am I right when I tell everybody that your niche is the travel and tourism, or have you shifted?
At the moment, I would say I'm 40% tourism, but 40% e-commerce.
Oh, okay.
Wow, so e-commerce is a whole different ballgame, isn't it? Because all those sites with multiple products want to be found for each of the products, and that's a real big undertaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So if people like you and want and trust you and want you to help with their SEO, and you're too busy to do that, do you have people you can refer people on to? What would you say are the top 3 things we need to look for when trying to find a decent SEO consultant?
I would look at who their current clients are. I would look at case studies, preferably word of mouth recommendations. Do they have any badges like Google Partner? It is hard. I mean, I struggle to find people myself, to be fair.
Yes.
Just because, I think the demand is greater than the supply.
Or than the caliber supply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is hard. It's even hard for me to work out if people are genuinely doing a decent job.
Yeah.
So because you just have this idea that SEO, starting an SEO agency is not a great thing to do now. But from what you're saying, starting a decent SEO agency or finding SEO people and training them to do it the right way, there's still a business opportunity there.
Yeah, and I think because it covers so many aspects of digital as well. It's not just keywords. It's somebody who has a holistic approach to it, I suppose. Which you kind of need. You need experience in the industry. You know, it's not something you can learn overnight.
Yeah. But actually, what Nicola's just said applies to every business. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We all need to be competent and good and know what we're doing and encourage our clients to trust us and all those values. Yeah.
I mean, talking to you today, Charlotte's made me realise that there is something drastically wrong with my site, because I'm doing an awful lot of that so well, and still my traffic isn't increasing. It's staying steady and has done for years. So that tells me that there is a few things that I need to find and sort out on my site. So that, because I know I'm adding constantly updated relevant content 3 times a week. I've got great social media signals. I do. Perhaps the images might be an issue and speed loading. So, I need to figure out what's going wrong with mine, because it should be increasing in traffic and it isn't.
Has she gone again?
Yeah, I think so.
I want to ask her one last question. Are you there, Charlotte? Heard a dog barking. It might have been at your end, Nicola, was it?
No, we've got tractors and things, but no dogs.
Oh, okay.
Nice picture, eh?
Lovely picture. Cape of Good Hope. Nice name as well.
Yes. Successful people have fear, successful people have doubts, and successful people have worry. They just don't let these feelings stop them.
They crack on.
They crack on indeed.
My desktop as well.
Oh, you're back. Hello.
I'm back.
I wanted to ask you one question. I know you're quite sort of similar brainy approach to life. What surprises you when you see something, you learn something new or see something new from observation or realization? What makes you go, oh my word, of course, or oh my word, how surprising and interesting? What surprised you this week, if anything?
I don't know. I can't think of anything at the moment.
So you're not generally surprised. It's a process for you.
No, sometimes I'll implement something, I suppose, and then I'm surprised at the impact.
Yes, bigger than you expected. Mostly. Yeah.
I can't think of anything that's happened this week, but
no. But you see things, I'm guessing, quite often and think, oh, that's a good idea. I'll incorporate that, or I'll experiment with that, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's so much of it is trial and error.
Okay, experimentation.
It's kind of, it's informed experimentation.
Yes.
It's constantly changing. So,
and you're a mechanic, aren't you, profile-wise? So,
well, I'm confused.
Okay, but you like process, or you like this. You've got the patience for this that perhaps Nicola and I might not have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what occurs to me, Charlotte? I can't help myself. If you're so good at this, and it sounds like you are, and you are up to your neck in clients and you can't help anyone else, there is an opportunity for a membership site here where you could help.
Excuse me, little bit more complicated than that. Little bit more complicated than that. Life circumstances and situations and geography and contentment, but be careful of coaching Charlotte, if you don't mind.
Oh, I wouldn't really.
No, well, you've tapped into something there that has been on my mind for several years.
Well, it's just I'm so desperate to get good advice, and there's lots of other people out there, but we can't hire you. So what do we do? That's just where my thought processes were going.
Yes.
Yeah, I have been considering some sort of training course or membership site for a long time, but.
Because I wouldn't know where to go in the UK to get some good SEO advice right now. So I know there's a company in America I would probably consider using, but it's a big challenge for a lot of people. And if I'm going to be doing more consulting, where do I send my big clients who want decent SEO? Who knows?
Yeah. But there are some good agencies out there.
Have you written that blog post, Charlotte?
Which one?
The top 5 UK.
No, maybe I should.
Yeah,
but then I don't have direct experience.
No, that would just bring you the traffic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't want any more traffic.
Yeah. What you're making me realise is, and something I suspected is, because I know you do a lot of training and keeping up to date, and I know that everything changes all of the time, it's quite a complex brain-engaged business, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, and a lot of it is creative as well.
Yes.
In fact, it's becoming increasingly so because so many people have got the technical side nailed. They're more aware of it. It's kind of documented what you need to do technically. It's just finding the people to do it.
Yeah.
So, but the people who have the creative angle tend to have the edge now.
Oh, I'm lovely hearing that.
Yeah, that excites me as well. Actually.
Yeah, quite. So that goes back to the profile question. So if you're thinking you're a creator with mechanic, that's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool. I think that's why I've been doing it for so long. Because it engages intriguing. Both those sides of me. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, that's precisely why I've loved internet marketing from day one, because the creative and then the techie side is, I love the geeky software. But yes, for example, I mean the example I giving people now is the how they make it videos. Dr. Martens have done that one that went viral with the yellow DMs in it. Mm-hmm. And 22 million views on Facebook and half a million views on YouTube. And all they did was show people how Dr. Martens are made, and it's just awesome to watch it.
But I tell you what I like about that, it's likely to be more value to them, isn't it? Because it's a well-known brand and they're going to get a spike. What Charlotte said in the beginning, that was a spike was of limited use to somebody like us because we can't sustain their interest because we don't have a brand like Dr. Marten.
Yeah. It's true, it's a different approach for the big brands versus the small businesses.
So can you just say another minute's worth on that? What would you do if you were one, and what would you do if you were the other?
Well, the big brands can tap into topical subjects and create content that, as you say, is not necessarily that relevant to what they're selling, just to keep
manage their brand
there.
Yeah.
The small businesses, you need to build up the fundamental traffic, which is targeted at, it's basically creating content that answers your clients' questions and needs, basically.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of websites.
Well, actually, Nicola, you're better at that than I am. I just want to blog about whatever I'm interested in. You're better at those type of structured posts.
Well, I know how to do them, but the ones I've set up generally haven't been that successful. But the good news is you can go into your website, your Google Analytics, and quite easily see, in the behavior section, there's, pages, and you can see which are your most popular pages. And that's often a big surprise for people. I've got 2 blog posts that I never imagined would be remotely popular, but bring me most of my traffic. And so it was and one of them was hilarious. It was bringing me hundreds of visitors a month, but because it was talking about something where the person who would be interested in reading it wasn't my ideal customer, I didn't do anything about it for 3 years at least. And then I suddenly thought, oh my God, I should be slapping, a pop-up box on this at the very least, and putting, seeding the content with links through to what I do. And it's my biggest lead generator now, which is hilarious.
Wow.
As I ignored it for 3 years. I'm kicking myself, but there you go. But yes, I like the idea of writing these. I mean, my top 10 internet marketing gurus is another popular post on my website. So, it's not number 1 on Google, but it does bring a steady stream of traffic, and it's people who are looking for internet marketing gurus or mentors. So it's a good targeted post for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, analytics is a great source of information. As you say, quite often how you think people are arriving at or navigating your site is often wildly different.
Yeah. That was one of my favourite games when we first started internet marketing. We were writing books to sell to people about, things we weren't interested in, like hiking and scrapbooking. Is that people used to say to me, "Oh, I know what people are searching for," and I go, "Prove it." And we'd go to the keywords till we put it in. No, they're not. No, what are they? It's that. It's you don't know what's in other people's brains ever.
No.
Do you use Google Trends at all?
Yes.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting website as well, isn't it?
Yeah. For the big volume searches, it's useful.
Yeah.
It doesn't find you the long tail, but it gives you an idea of what's growing in popularity and what isn't.
Well, because there's no point in writing a great blog post about something that's on a downward trend.
No, exactly.
No. And is Quora somewhere where people ask questions there? Could we use that to find out what people want to know?
Yeah. Often the forums and sites like Quora are useful to find the way that people phrase things.
Yeah. Because I simply get overwhelmed when I start doing this kind of research. I give up. But so you've given us some great targeted tips today. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
I think you should be an annual guest, actually, Charlotte, because you'll tell us something different this time next year, won't you?
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for making yourself available.
Oh, thanks for asking me.
Well, I thought that was absolutely fascinating. I am very aware that we bust in on her quite a bit on that interview.
Yes.
I hope that there wasn't anything that Charlotte wanted to say that she didn't get a chance to say.
Well, I did ask her that afterwards. I think there was something, but she knows us well enough to know that we would be likely to go off piste, even if we'd rehearsed what we were going to ask her.
But I did feel that I got some nuggets out of that I'll be going and applying to my own website.
I agree.
And it's very important to look at the SEO on it, because 2 or 3 of my posts bring most of my traffic to my website, and I did get some ideas listening to Charlotte what better posts I can do. So I'm going to do that this week.
Brilliant.
Okay, so what's your word of the week then?
Well, summertime and the living is easy. My word is chill. I'm going to let things come to me. I'm not doing any chasing this week.
Oh, very nice. My word is wet, because it has been unbelievable. And apparently so exactly this time last year, because Lynn and Arthur are heading off to England, and Lynn and Arthur said they head off to England every year at the same time, and last year it threw it down as well. So fascinating that in late June, Greece can have a whole week of rain. I never imagined such a thing.
And Lynn and Arthur, the couple that jump off mountains and things?
No, that's Hal and Linda. Lynn and Arthur are very sweetly going to lend me their car for the next 2 months.
Oh, how cool.
In Greece, there's a different system. They insure the car, not the driver.
Yeah, like the AA.
So it's very easy to lend cars, and it also makes it easy for people who've got properties out here to leave their car and have their guests can have the use of.
Yeah,
which is very civilised indeed.
Actually, I have a need coming up where that would be quite handy if that was the situation in the UK, but it isn't, as well you know.
No, but Sarah's daughter Chloe adds her to her insurance for about, I don't know, I think it costs about 20 quid for the year. It's not.
Yes, not unfortunately, it's not that way round, but yes.
Oh, right. So, project updates then. Let's talk about the podcast. It's still going strong, and we still occasionally have larger spikes, but, the hockey stick curve is not far away, but we are nearly, I know, it's a relative term, but I think we're up to about 84,000 downloads, which is a bit astonishing when you think about it over the 3 years. That's nearly 100,000, isn't it? It's nearly there. So
you're funny. Every time we discuss this, it's like it was 79,000, it's nearly 100,000. 84,000 is nearly 100,000. I'm an optimist of criminal proportion, but you are a rounder-upper of some note. Well, out of the grand scheme of things, it is nearly there, isn't it? And I just find those numbers astonishing. James Ramco's had about 3 million downloads of his podcast, but he's been at it for 10 years. And he was doing something very interesting the other day. He was adding up all the bits and pieces of video views he's had over the 10 years, because he got onto YouTube as soon as he possibly could. A bit like Gary Vee, and he says, I'm no Gary Vee, but I have had, quite a few million views, and it's all those ones, little videos or little audios you do. It's when you found that your little audios had was it 2,600 listens? Oh, more now. I haven't checked recently, but somebody sent a message overnight saying, thank goodness you're doing this, because I don't like reading an ebook on my computer.
Yeah. My little Clicks and Leads 365 Alexa skills briefings that are not just on Alexa, they're on every good podcast platform as well. They're only 1 to 3 minutes long, and I've had several hundred downloads already in the first couple of weeks. I
think we might probably addressing different audiences. Our podcast is long, and those little ones are short, and I suspect that the lengths appeal differently to different people.
Well, let's hope so, because that'd be really cool if it was.
I know, yeah.
But I had a message from Jo Dodds telling me that her Echo Dot is delivering them in batches rather than because we've got them scheduled to go out every day. So even though when we batch create them, where they should be going out on a daily basis. But anyway, it's so new. Nobody really knows what's happening with it. But I definitely think it's worth doing if you create any kind of content, to start thinking about 1 to 3 minutes and record it for it was actually very easy to do. It took Sarah a day to puzzle it out from some instructions we found.
The thing that Sarah does where she puts our Friday podcast onto our Facebook page on the Monday?
Yes.
Do you know what she uses to do that? Because one of our listeners, Karen Wilmot from Amman, has asked that question.
So it goes on to Libsyn Classic Feed. It goes on to Own It, the Facebook.
Yeah, now. So Karen Wilmot, listening, Own It, Libsyn lets you. What's the thing? The tab called, Nicola? Destinations lets you put it in different places. I think it's only allowed to go to our Facebook page once, because Sarah asked me if I wanted it to go there on Fridays instead of me having to do it, and I said no, but I might revise that in opinion. But she can only do it once, I think, is what she said to me.
And it's going to Android, Google Play Music. It's going to Android and iPhone. Going to Spotify. Going to Twitter. I don't know what web player is. It's going to YouTube, and with YouTube, she uploads it with an image so that it's ready to go to YouTube.
Yeah, but the brilliant thing about when it goes on our Facebook page when she does it is that the reader of Facebook can listen to the podcast directly on the Facebook page by pressing the arrow. So we're not taking them away from Facebook, which is so easy for everybody.
Yeah, and also Facebook rewards you for that by showing.
I know, but also it means that people who don't know what a podcast is and don't want to have to discover their podcast app and don't want to learn but they can hear our show without even having any comprehension ever of what a podcast is.
Okay, so who or what's impressed?
The kindness of clients past and present and Facebook friends who talk to me a lot on private message, offering me thoughts and ideas of things they think I might like, often triggered by what I've said in my newsletter or on this podcast. And it's lovely to be in others' thoughts as much as there are in mine. That's something I do all the time, as you know, because you're on the receiving end of it quite often. I send people thoughts or ideas or saw this and thought of you or whatever it is, and they've started to reciprocate, which is really nice.
I read a book called Leaders Are Readers, and it was that wasn't it. That's where the quote came from. Leaders Are Reader. It came from Love Is the Killer app.
Oh, how funny! I'm going to mention that in my newsletter this week.
No, what that book?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, in that book, it talks about how to, it's largely about building a good career in a corporate life, but it's all about how to, as you meet people, find out what they like, what they're interested in, and then follow up with them by sending them things afterwards that make them realise that you're thinking of them.
Well, there you go. But I've always done.
Talking, how much easier it is to do that nowadays. In the olden days, you used to have to post articles or books or whatever, and that was his point. His point was there's nothing nicer than sending someone a book that you think they'd like after you'd met them, after you found out what they, because books are very inexpensive, but it's a high perceived value gift.
Yeah.
And I've never forgotten that, and it was just so cool. And you just talking about it there made me realise how much easier social media has made that to do.
Yeah.
Cool. Is that it then? Is that what's impressed?
No, you haven't. Yes, that's what's impressed me. What's impressed you?
Well, I watched a couple of things accidentally as these things happened. I was watching some, trading thing, because I'm learning to trade, as you know, on YouTube. And I was offered the chance to watch Bill Gross, and his video is a TED talk, and it's the single biggest reason startups succeed. And he comes from a company called Idea Lab, which is one of these incubators. And it was a really, really good read. Watch. Really good watch. And he came up with the idea that actually, the single overwhelming reason that some startups succeed is because they've got a fantastic team and a good idea and a good offer. But the main thing that means more than anything is timing. Are they going into a market that's on the up? Are they going to a market that's on the down? Have they got an idea worth spreading? A bit like TED itself, I suppose. And then I was offered an even better one afterwards, which is called How I Learned to Read and Trade Stocks in Prison. And it's this chap called...
It's a killer title, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could not watch it, could you? Especially as the bloke concerned was wearing prison garb. And he's a young black guy called Curtis Wall Street Carrol, and he's actually in for 37 years, of which he's done 20 so far. He and his brother or cousin, I can't remember, got involved in some robbery that went bad, and he ended up accidentally killing someone. And he realised quite swiftly into prison that he couldn't read or write, and he started to decide to teach himself because he had lots of time to fill. And he picked up one day the financial papers, and he, instead of the travel section which he normally read, and some old guy said, "Oh, you're upping your game a bit. You're learning to pick stocks." And he said, "What are stocks?" And this other guy said, "That's where the white folks keep their money." So he immediately got his attention, and so he started to not only teach himself to read, but to teach himself how to be a stock picker and stock trader. And he's now created a financial intelligence program for men in prison, because apparently 70 to 80% of people in prison are black. 99% of them are financially illiterate. They don't know how money works, apart from where to get it, and by robbing people basically. And he's teaching people how to be entrepreneurial. He's teaching people how to trade the stock market. He's teaching people how to come out of prison. They give them $100 to come out with, and then they wonder why they offend again so quickly.
Yeah.
And because they don't know, that's not enough to even get a week's rent in America.
No.
So it was a brilliant, brilliant watch. And I highly recommend it. Then I went on to watch the full interview of him, and I found it very moving indeed. And he's a very wise young man, where I suppose in 20 years in prison would do that to you.
I like the idea that he saw an opportunity in what must be a very difficult situation.
Well, he said, I grew up in this unbelievably crack-orientated area of, I think it's Virginia, and it's well known for being, one of the most deprived areas of America. And he said, where were my role models? My role models were the drug dealers who rolled up with the fancy cars and the girls and the clothes, and I had no positive role models. And many of young men my age had no male role models in their house at all. So how are we supposed to learn?
Yeah.
And that really, those things really could cut to the heart of the crime problem in America. And I won't get you started because I know I'm sort of starting to think the same way that you are now, that actually nobody cares about solving these problems at all. They're just... Anyway, moving on.
Well, my brother was a volunteer inside a young offenders unit, Ashford Prison and Feltham Prison in the UK, and he told me that the same as you've said, which is they give them enough money when they leave to, if they're, go straight to the pub, spend it, and then get into crime so that they're back inside. But they hooked them up with a mentorship program which turned it all around for them. And he said, he said, we couldn't afford to take you to the annual presentation of awards to mentors because you would just blub like nobody's business, because it's so moving when they talk about what a difference this mentor has made in their lives.
And it just goes to show that, people with intelligence, it's all about, your circumstances and your options for learning, isn't it? So
it is. And I think, world economic circumstances have to be right so that people can afford initiatives. If you think of lots of problems, social problems particularly, there is the will to change things, but not always the funding. Sometimes the funding, just not always the funding,
Yeah, good stuff. Anyway, I highly recommend it if you want a bit of an afternoon of uplifting watching on YouTube.
Marvellous. I'll link to it in the notes.
Okay, cool. All right, that's us done for this week.
Yep. See you next week. Okay, bye.
How do they do it? Not a care and suffering. Wanna step into their world. Who holds the key?
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.